Right now, global oil prices are hovering near $90 a barrel, but with tensions boiling over in the Middle East, the global economy is bracing for a reality where crude shoots well past $100. To understand why, look at this map of the Arabian Peninsula. Almost all the oil produced here has to exit through one specific door, the Strait of Hormuz. Every single day, roughly 20 million barrels of crude oil squeeze through this incredibly narrow waterway. It is the single most important energy artery on the planet, and sitting directly on the northern shore of that artery is Iran. They effectively control this bottleneck, and they have a long documented history of threatening the commercial ships that rely on it. Recently, however, ship tracking data picked up an anomaly. 4 huge tankers, loaded with around 6 million barrels of crude oil, were spotted heading toward India. Those ships reached the open ocean without ever crossing Iran's geographic trap. They completely bypassed the Strait of Hormuz. Bypassing the world's most critical maritime choke point requires a massive logistical pivot that deviates from decades of standard shipping practice. This map shows exactly how they did it. Saudi Arabia is pumping oil directly across its landmass using the East-West pipeline, running 1,200 kilometers straight through the desert. It ends right here at Yanbu port on the Red Sea, skirting the volatile Persian Gulf entirely. This is an immense piece of infrastructure. It stretches across hundreds of miles of isolated, barren terrain, far away from the contested eastern waters. Saudi engineers originally built this system back in 1981. During the Iran-Iraq War, the Gulf became an active conflict zone, and the Saudis needed a backup valve to keep their exports flowing. For decades, it sat heavily underutilized, a relic of a past war. But today, this 45-year-old steel artery provides the essential volume needed to keep crude oil reaching the international market. Looking at this capacity chart, we see how the East-West pipeline historically operated. For years, it maintained a low-stress flow rate of 2 million barrels a day. Now, to bypass Hormuz, engineers are forcing 10 million barrels a day through that same system. You are taking steel pipes that have been baking in the desert sun for 4.5 decades and multiplying their internal pressure by a factor of 5. That massive spike in volume creates immense mechanical stress. Saudi Arabia isn't alone in this approach. The United Arab Emirates relies on its own overland bypass, pumping oil straight through the desert to the Gulf of Oman. For the major Gulf producers, relying on the water has become a liability. Pushing oil through the dirt is now a coordinated regional survival strategy. The current stability in global oil prices relies on a highly pressurized gamble. Every single day, these massive, aging pipes operate at the absolute brink of their physical and structural limits. Let's look back at the map, because avoiding one trap naturally leads you right into another. The pipeline successfully keeps oil out of the Persian Gulf, but it dumps it directly into the enclosed Red Sea. To reach heavy buyers in Asian markets like India, those tankers still have to travel south and exit through a different, equally tight waterway, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Right at the edge of that strait sits Yemen, where the Iran-backed Houthi rebel faction controls the coastline. These militants pose a highly active threat. They routinely fire drones and missiles at commercial ships, trying to navigate this exact corridor. By avoiding direct Iranian control in Hormuz, producers are simply routing their shipments into the firing line of Iran's proxy forces further south. The Saudi bypass kept the oil moving, but it delivered those massive barrels straight into a different set of hostile crosshairs. Concentrating millions of barrels of oil at a fixed location on the coast creates a massive, stationary target for long-range weaponry. We've already seen what happens when these sites are left exposed. In recent years, drone strikes launched by proxy groups have successfully breached Saudi air defenses and crippled Aramco refineries in the east. If militant groups have the range to hit those eastern facilities, they possess the capability to strike Yanbu port, or any point along that exposed 1,200-kilometer stretch of desert pipeline. A targeted missile strike on this infrastructure would instantly choke off the flow. And a severe mechanical rupture caused by overpressurizing those aging pipes would yield the exact same disaster. The East-West pipeline is buying the global economy time, keeping millions of barrels moving despite the chaos on the water. But it proves a harsh reality of global trade. You can build a massive pipeline to scale